back for another episode of In the City con Christi, where we're having casual conversations. Today we have one of our very involved residents who personally requested to be on the podcast because he's got a lot to share, and I know he does. So we have today Richard Glukstad. Welcome, Richard.
Thank you very much for having me.
I told you I was going to have you on my podcast.
I know.
Don't I always keep my word with you?
Yes, of course. You're good for your word. That's why I voted for you in the first place, and I keep supporting.
Thank you, Richard.
All right, you're the best.
Great to have you.
You're the best.
So tell us. I know you have like a full-on discussion that you want to have, not just about you, right? We want to talk a little bit about how you got to Doral.
Right, exactly.
A little bit about you, but I do want to talk to you about Doral because you have a lot of ideas.
Yes.
You bring a lot of valid points forward, and I want to discuss some of those.
All right. But let me talk about how I wound up in the Doral of all places.
Why do you call it the Doral?
The Doral, because that's always the way people from my generation referred to this place, the Doral.
The Doral, okay.
Right, because it was named...
it's just Doral, right?
Well, not for me, it's the Doral. It's a special place because it was named after the Doral Country Club.
That's true.
So from then on, the name the Doral, El Doral, stuck. Now, Doral's funny. It sounds Spanish, doesn't it? But it's just a made-up word. There are even cigarettes called Doral cigarettes.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
They named Doral after everything. So it's named after Doris and Alfred Caskell, who started the Doral Country Club. So how did I wind up here? Well, I'm a native Miamian, which means I was born in, which is now La Pequeña Habana. That's really all they had. Nothing was out here. I was born here in 1949, and that's where I was born. And I wound up in the Doral in 1973, just visiting my French girlfriend. I met her because she was Jean-Pierre Lamay's secretary. Jean-Pierre Lamay was a man from France that imported optical equipment like sunglasses and things like that. And my dad was his broker. My family business brokered his optical equipment. So I was introduced to her, and they lived, which is, it's now called Country Club Gardens Apartments. That's what it was called now. It's called Doral Gardens on 79th and, 41st. That's all there was back then. And then they had a great bar in there with a clear window. You could see the pool.
Oh, wow.
So you could sit at the bar and watch all the stewardesses in their bikinis go swimming at the pool while you're having a drink and relaxing. That's the way it was. And it was
you were young back then, huh?
I was young at one time, just like everybody. I'm 74 now, but back then I think when I was with, her name was Maryse Panu. She's from Lyon, France. Very nice girl. She didn't speak any English at all.
Do you speak French?
No.
Oh.
But we got along great.
I'm sure.
Oh, we didn't have any trouble. I used to refer to her as my French toast or something like that because I really didn't know what else to say. I figured chicken finger.
Oh, boy.
So anyway, this was the, I hope this isn't getting cut. It's funny, isn't it?
No, we don't edit anything on our podcast. It is a totally
So I don't want to talk too much about it. Anyway, so I wound up visiting her all the time because I lived in Coral Gables. I had my own apartment. And then I got another job in Texas. I moved, and I lost track of her. She went back to France. And I haven't seen her since like 1973. So that's how I wound up in the Doral. Because I really
But then you moved to Texas.
Well, I was there temporarily, and then I came back to Miami.
Okay. And then when you moved back to Miami, you moved to Doral.
No, I didn't. I actually didn't move to Doral until again I moved back to Coral Gables because I got married to my wife Amparo in 1975. And I already had a place set up there, so I moved in with my wife. And then we got kicked out because my wife got pregnant. They wouldn't back then they didn't let you have an apartment if you had a kid.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was really bad. They could so we got a letter, we got kicked out. The only place we could find near the Doral was Miami Springs. It was child friendly, so we got an apartment there. And then 3 years later, I bought a place here in 1981. That was my first, I was a homeowner here in the Doral in 1981.
Wow.
A place called San Doral, which is still there. So, and then a few years after that, we decided we were going to move to Colombia because we wanted to bring up our daughters, Nicole and Monica, in a Catholic country and learn their heritage and culture and customs. And so we moved to Pereira, Colombia, which was my favorite city in Colombia at the time. We stayed there 3 years. We both worked for Kimberly-Clark in different capacities, and I also taught English. My daughters went to school. We came back in 1990, and then we rented for a while, and I bought the place that I have now, which is on 114th and 47th. So I've been there since 1999 in that place. I bought it pre-construction. So I've been in Doral for quite a long time, either, in and out since 1973.
And what do you love about Doral? What do you think makes Doral special? You come to all of our council meetings, I have to say.
I do. Mm-hmm.
Richard is a very involved resident, and we may not always agree on certain things.
Well,
we have discussions about what we agree on sometimes, but he is very creative on how to get our attention when he doesn't agree with something.
Well, you have to do what you have to do, right? Mm-hmm. That's the way. But nobody agrees 100%.
No.
But the thing I like about the United States, and I happen to write a book about it, is which I'm going to show you. It was published in 2007. This country was founded upon compromise.
Yes.
That's why we have a Senate where each state has 2 representatives. So the big states don't eat the little states. They have just as much power. And the Congress is based upon the population of the states. But both have the same power. Everything has to go through the Congress and the Senate before it's ratified.
Right.
And then it has to be signed by the president. So we have a great system here of democracy, checks and balances. It's hard for a lot of people to appreciate it, but that's what I wrote my book about. Let me show you. Oh, first of all, before I get to my book.
Make sure you you speak into the microphone when you.
Yeah, I'm going to talk.
There you go.
Before I get started about me, because this is not just all about me, even though I wish it was. I would like to give you this certificate of appreciation.
Aww,
I don't know what else I could
sweet.
give you, but this to me means a lot because you're the only politician that I've ever considered almost like a good friend or a family member. Because you're really a nice lady. And by the way, you've done a lot of nice things for me personally. You gave me a ride a couple of times to City Hall after I had my heart attack. I don't think you knew that, but I had had a heart attack, and I couldn't drive. So you sent out an email. If you need anything, just let me know. So I said, is she for real? Let's find out. So I asked you to give me a ride. You came in your beautiful car, picked me up, took me to the meeting in the morning, and I waited for you, and then you took me home. Mm-hmm. I said, wow, this woman's for real. And then when you ran for the school board, I spoke at some of my friends in Miami Springs at the women's club. They have a lot of clout.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I told them, hey, vote for Christi. She's the real deal. It's not like that other lady, or it's all about me all the time. No, this lady actually comes through if she tells you something. So, I got a good impression from you.
Thank you, Richard.
So this is why I'm happy to be here. But
well, this certificate means more than many other certificates on my wall, I have to tell you. So I'm going to put it up next to probably one of my most important certificates, which is my degree.
Wow, great.
Because I do value this very much coming from you or my residents and our community, because this is what I do it for. I do it for you all, and I do it for leaving a better community behind. And so I really value that. Thank you. It's beautiful.
All right. Anyway, I guess talking about my family history, I wouldn't have too much, but I just want to let you know that my family business moved from the city of Miami to the Doral right after the Beacon Center opened.
Oh, okay.
We had
yes.
I'm not trying to brag, but my family, the Glukstad family, had the largest logistics company in Dade County.
Wow. Makes sense why you're in Doral now.
It was called Miami International Forwarders. It was originally called United Forwarders. Then when we moved here, they changed the name. And my father was a custom house broker and freight forwarder. And we also had bonded warehouses out here. We had a trucking company. So he died quite a few years ago. And after 2 years, my brothers and brother-in-law and my stepmother liquidated the company and sold it to one of George Bush's friends from Texas, one of these Texas logistics. And then they sold it to this Belgian company, which it's the one out there on 58th and 72. I just can't remember the name right now, but they finally bought it. It was a real big company. We had like 152.
But you've traveled the world, and you were a professor.
I have, yes.
Tell us a little bit about that. Tell us a little bit about who is Richard, other than a very active member of our community.
I was very lucky to be able to travel. I started, the first time I traveled out the United States, I was only 9 years old. I went with my father to Nassau, and then for the weekend. We could travel basically for free because we used to get tickets because of the business. If you're in the freight business or you work for the airlines, they give you either free tickets or discount tickets. So we used to just, and he'd always go on business anyway because of his logistics business. Plus, he happened to be in the CIA too. And his business was kind of, in a way, it was kind of a cover for a lot of the stuff he did. And one of the things that they used to do, so nobody would suspect him, he was German, by the way. I didn't get into, they never think, well, a German guy with a 9-year-old could be in the CIA. What's that? He's just around business, right? So this was a very good cover. So he used to take me.
So you were his cover?
I was one of his covers, yes. But I got a free trip out of it. It was fun.
All right.
And then when I was 11, he took me on one of those other business trips to Cali, Colombia, and then to Panama on the way back. And then when I was 13, I went to Ecuador. I went to Colombia again when I was Peru, 16 and 17. I had a lot of friends that I met through the business, so they'd invite us there. They'd come and stay with me. I studied Spanish for 8 years.
You speak, I was going to say, you speak fluent Spanish.
Yes, I do. And I studied Portuguese, too, at the university.
Where's Amparo from?
Amparo's from Medellin, Colombia.
Oh, she's Colombian, okay.
So, I wound up, and then I basically fell in love with Colombia because it just seemed to be one of the greatest countries outside the United States. I mean, I love Germany, too. I think it's a great country. I've been there, and I'm also a citizen because of my family. I could live in Europe if I wanted to, but, right now I'm over here. But and then I worked as a professor in the United States in public schools and universities. I worked at Millennium Atlantic University when they first opened. I worked at Miami-Dade. I worked at Johnson & Wales University, Barry University, places like that.
Teaching exactly what?
Well,
what did you focus on?
Most of the time I had things to do with the writing.
Okay.
I used to help people to write their papers.
Okay. That
went all the way from undergraduates all the way to PhD people. Wow. I'm kind of like a writing expert.
So you've actually written books?
Yeah.
You want to share one with us?
I've written a couple of books, So that's kind of, so the first...
Hold on. You have to make sure you speak it to
from
the
2004 to 2006, I was working in Colombia, again, as a teacher at a Catholic school, and I started writing this book.
Nobody's Perfect.
A Critique of Modern American Society. It was published in 2000, and I started writing this in Colombia. Then when I came back in 2006, a year later, it was published. And I sold quite a few copies. This basically talks about all the good things we have in the United States, some of the problems.
So why the backwards flag?
Well, because if this is upside down, upside down means it's a distress. When you put in the military, you put a flag upside down, that's a distress call. So we have the good, and then we have what causes distress. And basically what I could see at the time was that the United States was headed in the wrong direction.
What year did you write this?
Well, I wrote it from 2004 to 2007, but I had it published in 2007. I was busy working, so it took me a long time to write it. But I wrote it with all my heart because my family came from Europe. I was like the first one born here, And my father was in the resistance against the Nazis. He was in the Belgian resistance. So he was a Nazi killer, for example. He was not a Nazi. And my mother's family was Russian, and they fled Russia before the Russian Revolution, which was in 1970, because they didn't want to have to live in that type of a situation with a communist government and the Bolsheviks. So they came to New York. And my mother was an American citizen before she met my father. My father came here as a cargo pilot from Ecuador. That's one of the only countries that would let people like him in during the war because he had no papers. The Germans took away his citizenship. He was stateless. So countries like Ecuador and El Salvador, Dominican Republic, most of the Latin American countries were very good to my family and others like us. They were one of the few that you could count on for help. A lot of the countries turned their backs on us, including the United States and England, and it was hard for people like my dad to get here. Let's put it this way. So when he met my mother at a singles dance in Miami in 1948, she was on the way to New York. Back then, a C-46 couldn't go all the way to New York from Ecuador, so they had to stop here, refuel. The next night he'd go to New York, deliver the cargo, and go back to Ecuador. He did that for 7 years. He met my mother. They got married. They decided not to. They lived in Ecuador a while. My mother loved Chile, but they said, no, it's better to just stay in Miami. So he opened up the cargo business, which I told you about, which morphed into Miami International Forward. And then I was born a year later, so that's why I'm here in Miami. And I wound up, because of the business, knowing the French girl in the Doral. That's because I'd never been here before until the Doral, until I met this French girl.
Well, there wasn't much out here at that time.
No, there wasn't, but there was no reason to come here in 1973.
Absolutely.
So that's the thing about that.
What other book did you write?
All right,
You have
there's another
one.
book here. All right, while I was, I put myself through graduate school in 1975 to 77.
Taxi Tales Miami. You know that there's a show.
I know about taxis.
Yeah,
Right.
there's
Called
like
Taxi, right.
Yeah, you obviously you had some foresight there because there's like a whole show now about like taxi
and there
tales.
was a movie, Taxi Driver, with Robert De Niro.
Yes.
Some people used to. One lady told me, she said, "Oh, you're my." She talks to me from the back, and I turn around. She said, "Oh, you remind me of Robert De Niro. This is just like the movie." She was like fantasizing, like it was hilarious. So I said to her, like in the movie, "Hey, are you talking to me?" Like, just to make a joke. I did that while I was in graduate school, and then I kept my license active for years. When I was a teacher, I just drive on the weekends or Christmas, or in the summers when I had a lot of free time. So I drive, and I even drove limos sometimes in Coconut Grove. Met a lot of famous people. And this book is only on Kindle. It's an online book.
Okay.
I think it costs about $10.
And it's really Taxi Tales, like
Taxi Tales.
Stories that happened to you as you were driving the cab.
Yes, short stories. Each story is a short story. Is a collection of short stories
Do you have
about.
any funny ones?
Well, it depends if you think it's funny or not. But there's nothing X-rated in there.
Okay.
I left that out on purpose. I didn't want to go there. So even though I had lots of opportunities, let's put it that way. When you drive a taxi, you never know. But it's in there. It's you're curious read. It's about 85 pages.
Okay.
And I said, I better write this before I get Alzheimer's. Otherwise, I'm never going to remember. So there's
fun.
Two of the best stories in there, I think, are about two gangsters that I happened to befriend and they actually became friends with me. And boy, I made a lot of money with those guys, but it was all legal, of course.
Okay, Richard.
One guy.
Let's not talk about the Taxi Tales.
No, well, one guy was he was a British gangster that lived in Aruba. Fantastic guy. I call him King David because his name is. And the other was a Brazilian senator, Sergio Naya. I met him. He was a billionaire, actually, a billionaire, this guy. So you never know who was going to get in your tax.
That is true.
So that was interesting. And then there's one thing over here. How much time do we have left? More or less?
Don't worry. I'll let you know when we're running out.
All right, because I don't want to go over. This is the thing about the food that I was going to give you.
Oh, okay. This is the one that you said is a cookbook.
Yeah.
Because you brought me something to eat.
Yes, I brought some of my recipe.
It's good because I haven't had lunch.
For chopped liver.
I'm not eating chopped liver.
You'll like my chopped liver.
Oh no!
You have to try it.
What did I agree
It's
to?
a small amount. It's chicken liver. You'll love it.
You're kidding me, right?
No, I have it right there for you. Would you like to try some? One of the audience cameraman, would you like to?
Are you really gonna put us through this?
Yes, of course I will.
All right, Richard. Anything for you.
Whatever you offer me, I wouldn't refuse it.
I mean, I'm not going to offer you chicken liver, that's for sure.
This is a cookbook. I didn't write the book, but my recipe for chopped liver is in here. And it's from Hamburg because that's where my family is from, in Hamburg, in Germany.
Okay, I can tell you I've never had chicken liver.
Yeah, so
it's going to be a first.
They sent everybody that's from Hamburg, give us a recipe so we can make a cookbook.
Okay.
This lady, Mrs. Guggenheim, you heard of her, Guggenheim, like the Guggenheim
like
Museum?
the museum?
Yeah, that's the same people.
So is this a cookbook you wrote? No.
Well, my recipe for chopped liver's in here.
Oh,
that's
got it.
it.
Okay,
And
that's it. All right.
and my biography. Everybody that has a recipe in here has their biography. So it talks in German and everything is in
I
German.
feel like that would take up half the book.
No, it's just a small biography. I can
You've
show
done
you
a
the
lot
book.
in your short life.
Short life, 74
Yeah,
years.
that's
so,
short. You
So
still
what
have
I
a long
brought
way to
here,
go.
this is to wash it down. This is a kosher grape juice. I didn't want to bring any.
We've got some little cups here.
Take a plate.
Okay, while we're doing this, though,
Yeah.
while we're enjoying the
And also
chopped
brought
liver
you,
you've made.
by the way, a special treat from Israel. It's a candy bar.
You know, I was in Israel this past year.
I know. Eat that,
Yes.
and you'll feel like you're back in Israel.
I will.
It's terrific.
It was one of the best trips
You'll love
I've
it.
ever been
You'll,
on. It was
you'll
very
love
enlightening.
it.
Beautiful.
So we'll get some of the chopped liver here.
So I have some questions for you.
Okay, sure.
So can I ask you questions now?
Sure.
Here, we can put that here.
I can put.
You start serving while I ask you some questions. So you emailed us all the time
Yes.
about Doral
Right.
and ideas you have.
Right.
So let's talk about some of these.
Okay.
What are some of your some of your concerns? And
Well-
what do you think we could do better? I know you have a lot of ideas.
Well, my biggest concern when I went on the Environmental Advisory Board when Luigi was mayor, that's the first time I started to engage in local politics because I got sick in Saudi Arabia. I told you I was over there at the end of the Gulf War in 91 and 93. And I got a real bad respiratory infection because of the shamal, which is a dust storm. And I got, congestive bronchitis, and I have allergies too. So by the time I was back in Miami, the pollution from
A plant.
the plants and everything, I just couldn't take it anymore. So one of the policemen in the Doral police, a Venezuelan guy, a real nice guy, he said, "Richard, why don't you just go to the meeting and talk about your problem?" Excuse me, this is delicious. Salud.
Grape juice. Hold on.
Salud.
Wait, hold on. You want to cheers?
So,
Let's cheers.
okay.
Cheers, Richard. This
Salud. Cheers.
is non-alcoholic grape juice.
L'chaim in
L'chaim.
Hebrew. L'chaim. So we'll have that.
That actually is really good. That's
You,
very
you
good.
can buy it in Publix right here. It's on sale right now. If you get there
Are you
fast,
promotion?
it's
Are you doing promo for Publix
$1.99.
on my
$1.99. As we say,
This is promo
such
for Publix. I'm gonna have to go talk to Publix about sponsoring my podcast now.
it's such a deal. $1.99. You can't beat it.
It's actually really good.
It's on clear. Go to the clearance section by the pharmacy. You'll see it on the
Okay.
bottom. They got lots of bottles. left.
Okay. You didn't buy them all.
Just 2.
Okay.
So it's correct. So anyway, yeah. So I got sick from that, and I used to take Snoopy, my dog
Yeah.
who died in March,
I know.
for walks all the time in the doggy park, and Snoopy couldn't breathe. Believe me, I couldn't breathe. So I really started to get mad, and I said, "Well, I've got to do something." So I went to the meetings with, I think you were on
I
the
was
council,
here. Yeah, I was here.
and I talked about that. So the first thing. Before I knew it, Luigi said, "Do you want to be on the environmental advice?" And I did, and I worked really hard. We got a lot of stuff passed,
Yeah.
including that ordinance, which
ordinance.
unfortunately I don't think is being.
Well, it's closed now. The plant's closed now. But, at the last meeting, I brought forward to hire a specialist that will be like our independent auditor for the landfill and the plant, even though it's closed now. So I think the city needs to do more about protecting our interests. And so, we do hire people to do inspections every so often. But I felt like we needed to have somebody that would do random audits of what's happening in the plants. And you're right. You brought that ordinance forward that helps us kind of monitor and provide fines and things like that.
Exactly.
So we are going to engage and do that. And it had not been
Good.
done.
It's a good idea. I saw that you were going to do something
Yeah.
because Bermuda's and Luigi never did anything. Their environmental policy was like about this. It was like a zero.
We're not going to talk about
So,
other
but anyway,
politicians on my
I don't
on my
want to
podcast.
brag, but I mean.
But we're getting it done, right?
So,
We're getting it done.
Well, I mean, anything you can do, because to me the number one thing is the air.
Yeah.
I can live without water for like
Not that long. 40, I think it's
for maybe 3 days,
Yeah,
I
I
think,
think
and without food maybe for a week. But if you put a plastic bag over my head and cut off my air,
circulation.
I'll be dead in 1 minute.
Yeah.
So the air is number one,
Yeah.
and then the water and the soil. That was my and I did a lot. We got recycling done. Everybody on that board was from a different country, by the way. We had a guy from Spain, a Venezuelan lady, a Colombian lady, and me.
Yeah.
And we got more done than anybody else, believe me. And we never missed a meeting.
I know.
We went to every meeting.
We have very active boards, again.
It was good.
We have some very active people.
So that's, to me, that's the number one thing, is the environment. And, of course, the overbuilding and the overdevelopment
I know that's your pet peeve
because
with
it affects, it affects the environment.
But you do realize that, like, property owners have rights, and there's certain rights that we can't take away from them that they have by entitlement.
I know but I'm going to say this publicly.
I know. You say let them sue us, but that just puts the city in a really bad position, and it would be irresponsible of us and of me to put us in a position that I know we're going to lose in court.
I don't want to get in a debate with you, but I didn't say necessarily.
That's why I invited you here.
Let them sue you. No, I don't want to debate you on this. I don't necessarily let them sue you, but there's more than one way to skin a cat.
100%.
Meaning you don't have to get a suit.
Everything.
There's all kinds of like they say in Portuguese.
Well, you negotiate certain things that's in the best interest of the community.
Find a way. Dar jeito in Portuguese. Yeah. Find a way. There's always ways around getting suits, but sometimes you may have to, as a city, in my opinion, bite the bullet and say, look, we've done everything we can do.
Listen, what we can, we do. We did it with that project that was coming forward with Senate Bill 102. I mean, we've done it when we see that we have the potential to get a better deal out of it. But sometimes we're just. The
city has to make compromises too.
Yeah.
But don't forget, these guys that are making that project on 97 and 41st, they get a lot of money from the government, subsidy government. It's like a freebie for them. It's like a freebie for them. It's almost
that bill's up, for some for some changes this legislative session, hopefully.
Okay.
So I have another. Did you know that we started now the freebie program for 65 plus? Did you see that?
I know that.
What do you think?
I think it's good if they can come to my apartment.
They do. They will pick you up now in your apartment.
Any place?
Yes, sir.
I thought it has to be in a certain area.
No, we expanded it.
That was even to where I live?
Yeah.
You're kidding me.
We did it at the last meeting.
Oh, okay.
That's one of the things that we did that I promised you we were going to get done, which is provide transportation for ages 65 plus throughout the entire city. So now you can call Freebie. They'll come and get you. They'll take you to Publix. They'll take you to pharmacy. They'll take you, bring you here to City Hall.
Even where I live, which is pretty far away.
Yes, sir. They'll pick you up in your house.
Well, then I'll try to take advantage of it.
Yeah.
I don't have a cell phone. That's another thing. I'm the only person in.
Well, you can call the 1-800 number from your house.
I can call, really?
Sure.
You're kidding me.
No, I'm serious. We did this. We talked about this.
I mean, I had to come for an interview to find this out. How come nobody told me?
Because sometimes you come to the meetings, you leave early.
I don't leave early all the time, but
not all the time. I missed that discussion.
Well, the last one I had to leave early because I have to take my wife to the doctor stuff. We only have one car.
I know.
So we have to share the car.
Yeah. So now you have Freebie that you can
good.
use. Okay, so I'm actually gonna try this chicken.
I don't want to talk too much politics, but listen.
Tell me.
I'm just going to make a statement.
Yes.
To the people. There's no such thing as a perfect politician, but Christi is one of the best people you're going to get in Miami, okay? So take my word for it. Nobody's perfect. Remember my book? Nobody's perfect, a critique of, well, it's true. So just, Christi's going to make mistakes. She's young. Look how young. She's only like 29, right? So you can't expect her to know everything yet.
I wish.
So God bless her, and let's hope everybody here does it. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so tell me I don't want to know what's
chopped
in this.
chicken liver.
I changed my mind. I don't want to know what's in this.
It has onions and olive oil and stuff.
It does smell good.
It is, and that's a
pate.
That's a Nabisco. It's a pate. Pate is goose liver.
Oh.
Only difference is this is chicken liver. And my recipe's in the book in case you want to try it.
You're going to try it with me though, right?
Of course. Okay. Oh, this is so good.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right.
How about our audience?
They'll try it after.
No, during. You have to try it now.
Oh, they're going to try it after.
Come into the picture.
Here, cheers.
1, 2, 3. Here we go. Just swallow all that.
Really good.
It's really good, right?
That's amazing.
It's amazing, right?
That is good.
No, you're going to have, it's so good you can't stop eating it, right?
I have to tell you, Richard, I am pleasantly surprised. I can't think that I'm eating chicken liver, but...
Chopped chicken liver.
Stop talking.
German
Just
chopped
eat.
chicken liver. And drink some of that kosher.
Yeah.
Here you go. Here's another one.
My husband's gonna get jealous.
Okay.
This
Salud.
is like, it's
Otro
like a little
salud.
date. Cheers.
All right, wash it down.
Oh, that makes it better.
Would you like some out there? And
They're gonna have some. They're gonna have some now. All right, Richard. What? One last thing you want to say to Doral?
well, if you love your country, you have to support it. You have to work for your country. You have to do things. I've been retired since I was 62. I'm 74 now. So I've been actively engaged in helping my country any way possible, including being a volunteer at Baptist Hospital. I was a volunteer of the Democratic Party. I was on the advisory board. I wrote books to try to help the country. I constantly write online different things all the time. I speak to people. I go to the German consulate, for example, invites me to a lot of functions. I'm always there, actively engaged. When they have meetings, I go there. They're very, by the way, the Germans are very pro-environment. They really put their money where that's where the Green Party started, was in Germany. They're actually in the government. They have a Green Party in the government. Here, there's no Green Party. Well, that's what we need. We need a third parties like the Green Party, because the two parties we have now, they're just not cutting the mustard. I was a real diehard Democrat for years. I finally quit the party in 2016, and I'm independent now. I was never a registered Republican, but I know there's a lot of great Republicans out there. They're moderate. Those are the moderate Republicans, because I'm basically a little bit left to center. Mm-hmm. I'm mostly a centrist. Mm-hmm. And Angela Merkel, you remember her? She was the prime minister of Germany. Yeah. She was a centrist. She was a bit to the right. But I loved Angela Merkel. She was great. She really loved Germany. She loved her country. And people knew that even though she was maybe a little bit to the right, the ones on the left gave her a chance, and they all worked together for years. She retired. They didn't kick her out. See, over there, it's not like election, like here every 4 years. You can stay there as long as she was the prime minister. Yeah. I think that's the way, and possibly we could do that here someday, but she finally just had to retire, but she was terrific. That, to me, the best government you can have is as close to the center as possible, because once you have an extremism in government,
I agree,
like some of the Democrats or Republicans, then you tear the country together. Remember, we were founded on compromise. We have to compromise. We have to work with each other and love each other. Otherwise, everything is destroyed.
I agree, Richard.
That's my final word on this.
Thank you.
You're
for
welcome.
Coming and for participating and for sharing your history with us, for sharing your chopped liver with us.
Thank you. My pleasure.
I really appreciate it. Thank you for saying some really nice things about me. I appreciate it, and I love serving this community. And, I do it with all my heart, and I appreciate you seeing that you're great too. I appreciate you coming, really taking the time from your day to come and give your real input, your passion about it. Mm-hmm. You spend time writing us emails, and you're right. As sometimes we don't agree, but you're someone that I can actually have a conversation with and tell you why I don't agree, and we agree to disagree.
I don't take things personally, and that's the way
you teach me something every time.
Well, thank you very much.
I'm very, very grateful for your participation and leadership in our
you
community.
teach me too, because I'm kind of like a bull in a china shop. I always want my way now. I don't like to have to wait to see things result, and I'm a little bit overbearing sometimes. I can be. That's because of my, I guess, German culture in many ways, but maybe a little bit too.
And Amparo's great too.
Amparo's Colombian, so she's terrific too. We're going to have our 50th anniversary next year. And we're going to go on a cruise to to Colombia, the Netherlands, Antilles, and places. We're going to have a good cruise.
Awesome. All right, Richard. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
God bless
in the city con Christi, in Doral, the greatest place to live, work, learn, and play. We'll catch you next time. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.